I can still hear the clinking of glasses, the laughter, the live band playing something soft and expensive in the background. Our 10th wedding anniversary dinner, the restaurant's private room filled with 40 people, friends, co-workers, my parents, Eric's family, even Jenna. I was smiling so hard my cheeks hurt, trying to convince myself that everything was perfect. I should have known better. Eric stood up to give a toast, his tie slightly loosened, his charm switched on like a stage light. He always loved being the center of attention, basking in admiration. He raised his glass and grinned at me. To my beautiful wife, Megan, who's put up with me for 10 years. She's the backbone, the planner, the heart of this family. The room clapped. My face burned with pride and love, even though something inside me felt off, like static under the skin. Then it happened. A co-worker, tipsy and loose-lipped, called out from the table, "Hey, Eric, tell her about that voice memo. Funniest thing I've ever heard." The air shifted. I saw Eric's smile falter, just for a second, but it was enough. My chest tightened. "What voice memo?" I asked, my voice calm, but my hand frozen around the stem of my glass. Eric chuckled too quickly. "Nothing, babe. Inside joke." No, the coworker pressed on, laughing. "The one you sent by accident. We played it in the office, man. Bold move." The room quieted, all eyes swiveling between us. I felt my phone buzz in my clutch. Almost instinctively, I pulled it out. A new message from Eric, time-stamped earlier that day. A voice memo. My stomach sank. I clicked play. His voice filled the room, amplified in the hush. "Jenna, you were incredible last night. I swear, Megan has no clue. Sometimes I think she actually believes all this anniversary crap. I can't wait to get you alone again, just us." "God, the way you laughed when I told you—" The gasp that went through the room was like a physical slap. My ears rang, my vision tunneled, but I kept my hand steady as I held the phone up for everyone to hear. And then came Jenna's voice in the recording, unmistakable, low and sultry. "She's so blind, Eric. It's almost pathetic." Chairs scraped. Someone dropped a fork. My mother covered her mouth. My father's face turned a shade I'd never seen before. Eric lunged toward me, hissing, "Turn it off!" I stepped back, holding the phone higher. "No, let's all listen, since it's so funny." My voice didn't crack, though my insides were on fire. Jenna sat frozen across the table, her face pale, her hand gripping her wine glass so tight I thought it might shatter. "You've been screwing my sister," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The words tasted like poison and glass. "And mocking me while you did it." Eric's mask slipped. His eyes darted, desperate, calculating. "Megan, it's not what it sounds like." "Really?" I cut him off. "Because it sounded like you couldn't wait to sneak around with my sister again while I was out planning this celebration for you." Silence pressed down on the room. People were watching not just out of shock, but out of hunger, for scandal, for fallout. I turned to Jenna. "Tell me, how long have you been betraying me? Was it while Lily was napping upstairs? Was it during Christmas when you smiled at me across the table?" Her lips parted, but no words came. She shrank into her chair, crimson creeping up her neck. Eric reached for my arm. "Please, let's step outside." I yanked away. "Don't touch me." My voice cracked like a whip. "You humiliate me in my own marriage, in my own family, and you think you get to control this moment too?" No. The whispers grew louder. Phones were out now, discreetly recording. Eric knew it. His jaw tightened, that mix of anger and panic he couldn't hide anymore. And then it happened. I slapped him. The sound echoed in the quiet like a gunshot. His head snapped to the side, his hand instinctively going to his cheek. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, but I felt nothing but clarity. I stood tall, looking him dead in the eye. "Congratulations, Eric. You gave me the best anniversary gift of all. Proof. Proof of who you are. Proof of what you two have done. And I promise you this. I will never forgive it. And I will never forget it." I grabbed my clutch, turned on my heel, and walked out. My heels clicked against the marble floor, steady, unshaken. Behind me, voices rose, questions, accusations, Eric's pleading. None of it mattered. My blood was roaring in my ears, but my mind had never been sharper. At the entrance, I stopped and turned back one last time, projecting my voice over the stunned silence. Enjoy your dinner, because from this moment on, Eric, I'm going to take everything you care about, and I'll do it in broad daylight. Then I left. Into the night air. Into the cold that wrapped around me like steel. My marriage was over. My family torn apart. But I was already plotting. Revenge wasn't an idea. It was a vow carved into my bones. And I was just getting started. I didn't marry Eric blindly. At least that's what I told myself for years. We met when I was 24, fresh out of grad school, hungry to prove myself in the corporate world. He was already established, a little older, full of charisma. He made me feel like I'd finally found someone steady, someone who believed in me. My friends called him charming. My parents called him reliable. I called him my safe choice. Our wedding wasn't lavish, but it was beautiful. We bought a starter home in Denver with the down payment from my inheritance, money I should have saved, but Eric convinced me it was an investment in our future. I believed him. Every nail I hammered into that house, every coat of paint, every late-night conversation about bills, I thought it was building something unshakable. When Lily was born, I stepped back from work. Not completely. I still managed projects part-time, but the weight of the house, the childcare, the endless logistics landed on my shoulders. Eric promised he'd pick up the slack, but his version of support was paying bills and showing up for the occasional bedtime story. I told myself it was enough. There were signs. Of course there were. The late nights at the office, the sudden interest in fitness when he'd never cared before, Jenna dropping by the house at odd hours, claiming she wanted to help with Lily. At the time, I brushed it all off. I'd always been the one to hold the family together, to give people the benefit of the doubt. I told myself my sister was just being supportive, that Eric was just ambitious, that I was overthinking. Looking back now, I see the patterns. The way Jenna's laugh lingered too long when Eric made a joke. The way his phone seemed to flip over every time I walked into the room. The family gatherings where Jenna always managed to sit next to him, leaning in, whispering, acting as though I wasn't even there. And still, I stayed silent. Because the alternative, admitting something was wrong, felt like pulling a thread that could unravel my whole life. I sacrificed. That's the part that stings the most. I sacrificed my career momentum, turning down a promotion that would have taken me out of state because Eric said Denver was where we'd raise our family. I poured my savings into his business idea, only for him to quietly shut it down when it failed, never paying me back. I defended him when my mother whispered that he seemed distracted, that his eyes wandered. I chose him, again and again, even when doubt chewed at me like rust. The night after the anniversary dinner, I sat in Lily's room while she slept, staring at her tiny hand curled around her stuffed rabbit. She was 8, old enough to understand tension, but too young to carry the weight of betrayal. I swore she would not grow up watching her mother accept humiliation as normal. She deserved a model of strength, not quiet endurance. The next morning, as I tried to swallow the taste of coffee that felt like ash in my mouth, Lily shuffled into the kitchen in her pajamas. She rubbed her eyes and said, almost casually, "Mommy, why was Daddy whispering with Aunt Jenna in the garage last week? He told me not to tell you." It was like the final nail being driven in. The betrayal wasn't just mine anymore. It had spilled into my daughter's world. Eric had dragged her into his web of secrets, teaching her to lie, to cover for him. That was the moment something inside me hardened. I could have denied it again, brushed it off as childish imagination. But Lily's innocence left no room for excuses. She had seen, she had heard, and she trusted me enough to tell me. That confirmation cut deeper than any voice memo, deeper than any public humiliation. I kissed the top of her head and promised myself something she didn't need to hear out loud. I was done sacrificing, done protecting Eric, done pretending. From that moment, the stakes weren't just about a marriage or a house or even an inheritance. They were about the example I set for my daughter. If Eric thought he could betray me quietly and walk away untouched, he had no idea who I was when pushed to the edge. He thought I was the safe choice. He was about to learn I was the wrong one to underestimate. Shock carried me through the anniversary dinner. Grief carried me through the night. But by the time the sun came up the next morning, I wasn't just a betrayed wife. I was a strategist. Something in me clicked. A switch I didn't even know I had. I wasn't going to drown in Eric's lies. I was going to use them as oxygen. The first move was money. Always money. Betrayal hurts. But control is measured in accounts and signatures. While Eric was at work pretending nothing had happened, I logged into every bank and credit card we had. Joint checking, savings, even the investment account he barely touched. I moved half into a new account in my name only, then called the bank to freeze the rest. My inheritance had been poured into that house and those accounts. He was not going to gamble with what was left. The second move was the lawyer. I'd never needed one before, but the call felt natural, like a chess player finally sliding the queen across the board. I booked a consultation with a woman recommended by a colleague, a divorce attorney known for being ruthless, efficient, and impossible to intimidate. Her voice on the phone alone steadied me. She told me to gather every piece of evidence: the voice memo, Jenna's texts, financial statements, anything I could get my hands on. For the first time since the recording played in that restaurant, I felt something close to relief. I wasn't helpless. I went through our files in the basement that night. Marriage license, mortgage paperwork, tax returns. My fingers trembled, but not from sadness, from clarity. Every page I pulled was another nail for Eric's coffin. Every signature reminded me of the sacrifices I'd made, the life I'd built and protected while he was busy sneaking around with my sister. Then came the house. Our house. My house, really. I'd funded the down payment, picked out every fixture, painted every wall. I called a realtor I trusted and told her I wanted a private valuation, not because I was selling, but because I wanted numbers in my pocket before Eric realized what was happening. By day 3, I had Lily's school paperwork updated to list me as primary guardian. Eric didn't notice, too busy spinning lies to his friends. But I noticed everything. The more steps I took, the less he mattered. Of course, he caught on eventually. It started with the credit card. He stormed into the kitchen one evening, waving his phone like a weapon. "Why is the Amex declined? Did you forget to pay the bill?" I looked him dead in the eye, calm, controlled. "No, I froze the account." His jaw dropped. "You what?" "You heard me." I didn't shout. I didn't need to. My money, my inheritance, my credit is not going to bankroll your affair with my sister. If you need to impress Jenna, figure it out on your own dime. He slammed his fist on the counter. "You can't do that. It's joint. It was joint." I cut in, my voice sharp as glass. "Not anymore." For the first time, I saw panic flicker across his face. Real panic. Not just anger or bluster. He realized I wasn't playing the devastated wife waiting for his apology. I was building a wall brick by brick, and he was on the outside. He tried again, lowering his tone. "Megan, please, let's talk. You're overreacting. We can fix this." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the words were so predictable, so pathetic. "You sent me your confession, Eric. There is no fixing this. There's only fallout, and I promise you, it's coming." He backed away then, muttering under his breath, trying to salvage dignity he didn't have anymore. I watched him go, my pulse steady. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't unsure. For the first time in years, I was in control. That night, I tucked Lily into bed, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "Mommy's got this." She didn't know the storm brewing around us, and she didn't need to. All she needed to see was that her mother was not crumbling. The betrayal had broken something in me. Yes, but it had also built something new. Steel, where there used to be softness. Strategy, where there used to be sacrifice. Eric thought he was clever, sneaking around, hiding in shadows. But I was done living in shadows. My moves were out in the open, deliberate, unstoppable. And the best part? He hadn't seen anything yet. Eric always believed consequences were for other people. He'd skate through his mistakes with charm, a quick lie, or some half-hearted apology. But this time was different. This time, every crack I opened spread fast, like a spiderweb across glass. And he had no idea how to stop it. The money was the first domino. Within days, his calls to the bank turned frantic. He'd storm into the living room with his phone pressed to his ear, barking at some poor customer service rep. "This is illegal. My wife can't just freeze my cards." Then he'd slam the phone down, glaring at me as if intimidation could undo signatures. I'd sip my coffee in silence, knowing full well it wasn't just legal. It was airtight. His face when he realized his access to cash was gone was almost comical. The man who prided himself on picking up dinner tabs, on flexing his credit line like a badge of honor, couldn't even swipe for gas without me knowing. Then came the whispers. Denver isn't a small city, but our circle wasn't that big. People talk. Fast. That voice memo from the anniversary dinner had already begun its orbit through friends, colleagues, and extended family. It spread in fragments. "Did you hear about Eric?" She played the recording out loud. With her sister, can you believe it? By the time Eric walked into work on Monday, his co-workers' eyes told the whole story. He wasn't a leader anymore. He was gossip. Jenna didn't fare better. Our parents stopped answering her calls. My mother, who had always defended her, told me flatly, "She is no longer welcome in my house." For once, my mother's disapproval wasn't directed at me. It was her youngest daughter facing the full weight of judgment. Jenna tried sending me messages, weak apologies, rambling excuses, but I ignored everyone. She could drown in her own shame. The fallout reached Lily, too, though I shielded her as best I could. She came home from school one afternoon, cheeks flushed, clutching her backpack. "Mom, why are kids saying Daddy's in trouble?" My chest tightened, but I crouched to her level and said, "Because Daddy made bad choices. But you and I are safe, and that's all that matters." She nodded slowly, still too young to understand betrayal, but old enough to sense the truth. Eric's family was split. His brother stopped taking his calls altogether. His father, always more bark than bite, texted me privately. "Whatever you need during this, Megan, you have my support." That message was worth more than Eric's empty words ever were. But the real crack in his armor came when he tried to flex control. One night, he cornered me in the kitchen, his voice low and sharp. "You're ruining me! Do you understand that? Freezing accounts, spreading rumors. You're turning everyone against me." I leaned back against the counter, calm, steady. "You ruined yourself the moment you pressed record. All I'm doing is making sure the world sees you for who you are." His eyes narrowed, fury boiling. "I'll fix this. People will believe me." I almost laughed. "Fix it? You can't even buy groceries without begging me for cash. And people don't believe you, Eric. They've heard you. In your own voice. Your own words." He slammed his hand against the wall, the sound making Lily stir upstairs. I stood my ground, refusing to flinch. "Don't raise your hand in this house again," I warned, my voice like ice. He froze, staring at me, realizing maybe for the first time that I wasn't afraid anymore. Days passed, and his desperation grew. He started texting at odd hours, strings of half pleas, half threats. "We need to talk. You're making a mistake. Don't do this to Lily." Then came the late-night calls, his number lighting up my screen while I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. I let them ring out every time. By the end of the week, he made his first real attempt to reach me in person. I was walking Lily home from school when he pulled up in his car, rolling down the window with that fake smile he used on strangers. Megan, can we talk? Just 5 minutes. Lily gripped my hand tighter, sensing my tension. I shook my head. Not here, not now. Megan, please, you don't understand what you're doing. I stopped walking, looked him dead in the eye in broad daylight, other parents milling around us. I understand exactly what I'm doing. You thought betrayal would break me. It's only building me. His smile faltered. People were watching. He knew it. And for once, he had no clever line, no way to charm his way back. He drove off, face hard, hands gripping the wheel too tight. I exhaled slowly, squeezing Lily's hand. The consequences had only just begun. He'd lost money. He'd lost respect. He'd lost family support. And now, he was losing the only thing that had ever kept me tethered. Fear. Eric was unraveling. And I was just getting started. Eric's family believed a dinner would smooth things over. His mother called me herself, voice trembling but hopeful. Please, Megan, come. We need to talk this through as a family. It's time for healing. Healing. The word made me want to laugh. Still, I went. Not for Eric, not for Jenna. I went because silence protects the guilty, and I was done protecting anyone but my daughter. The restaurant was one of those old-money Denver places. Dark wood, white tablecloths, servers gliding like ghosts. The kind of place where reputations mattered more than food. I walked in wearing black, no frills, no smile. Eric was already there, sitting stiff at the table with his parents, his brother, and, of course, Jenna. She had the nerve to show up, hair sleek, lips pressed into a fake picture of regret. Megan, Eric started as I approached. His voice was low, rehearsed. Thank you for coming. I know we've had misunderstandings. I cut him off with a laugh sharp enough to slice glass. Is that what we're calling it now? Misunderstandings? The table tensed. Forks stilled. His mother opened her mouth, but I raised a hand. Don't. You asked me here, so listen. I pulled my phone from my bag, the same device that had blown his secrets wide open weeks earlier. You all want to believe this was a mistake, that Eric slipped once and regretted it. Fine. Let's test that theory. I tapped the screen and slid it across the table. Go ahead, read them. Eric's color drained as his father picked up the phone, scrolling through the texts I'd saved. Not one message, not one night of weakness, but months of conversations. Him mocking me for being too tired to notice. Jenna telling him she couldn't wait to wear the necklace he bought her while I was budgeting groceries. Plans they made while I was at Lily's parent-teacher conference. Gasps broke out around the table. His brother shoved back his chair. You sick bastard. Jenna's face twisted, tears threatening, but not falling. Megan, please. I snapped my gaze to her. Don't you dare speak to me. You betrayed me in my own home, with my own husband, while my daughter was upstairs sleeping. You don't get forgiveness. You don't even get words. Eric reached for the phone, but his father smacked his hand away. You've disgraced this family. The old man's voice shook with fury. Do you have any idea what people are saying? You've dragged us through the mud. For once, Eric had no comeback. He sat there, cornered, his carefully crafted image crumbling. And that's when I stood, pushing back my chair with deliberate slowness. The whole restaurant had gone quiet, eyes darting from their meals to our table. Perfect. An audience. You see, I said, my voice carrying just enough to reach the neighboring tables. Eric thought he could cheat on me with my sister and walk away untouched. He thought silence would protect him. But silence is over. You wanted healing? Here it is. The truth, raw, ugly, and his alone to carry. Eric lunged to his feet. Megan, stop making a scene. I turned, meeting his glare head-on. A scene? This is the scene you created. You just never expected me to set the stage. The waiter froze mid-pour at the next table. The couple by the window leaned in, phones discreetly tilted. Perfect again. Eric's mother whispered, Please sit down. People are watching. That's the point, I said calmly. Then I leaned toward Eric, close enough for him to feel my words burn. Everywhere you go from now on, people will know. They'll whisper. They'll stare. You built this reputation, and I'll make sure it sticks. I straightened and delivered the line I'd been waiting to say, the one I knew would spread beyond these four walls. Eric, you didn't just cheat on me. You auditioned for the role of coward, and you nailed it. The silence that followed was thick, stunned. Then came the first chuckle, then another, until muffled laughter rippled through the room. Jenna shot up from her chair, muttering something about not needing this, and fled toward the exit. Her heels clattered against the tile like retreating gunfire. Eric stood frozen, red blotching his face, fury and humiliation mixing into one expression I'll never forget. His parents couldn't even look at him. His brother shook his head in disgust. I picked up my bag, calm, unhurried. Enjoy dinner, everyone. I'm done wasting my appetite here. And I walked out. No tears, no hesitation. Just the steady rhythm of my heels echoing off the walls, the same sound that had carried me out of our anniversary dinner weeks earlier. As I stepped into the night air, my phone buzzed again. Messages already pouring in. Friends, acquaintances, even strangers who'd been in the restaurant. My words were spreading, faster than wildfire. Eric always loved an audience. Now he had one. But this time, they weren't clapping. They were laughing. And I wasn't finished yet. Eric always thought he could outtalk a storm. In his mind, words were weapons, and image was armor. After the restaurant humiliation, he went into full spin mode. Within days, he was calling reporters he knew through work connections, feeding them his version of events. The first piece dropped in a local magazine, an interview where Eric painted himself as the wounded husband. He claimed I'd misunderstood private jokes, and that my sister and I had long-standing issues I was now using to destroy a good man's reputation. The article framed him as a victim of a vindictive wife. When I read it, I almost laughed. Eric, the victim? The man who had looked me in the eye while sneaking around with my sister was now a martyr? He thought sympathy could overwrite recordings. He thought a polished photo shoot, him sitting on the edge of a leather chair, chin down, tie loosened just enough to look human, could erase the truth. But the thing about lies is they're brittle. One crack and the whole structure collapses. The crack came faster than even I expected. A friend from Eric's office texted me screenshots. The voice memo had already circulated there, but now the texts between him and Jenna were surfacing too. Private jokes about me, plans they'd made at my expense, crude comments that stripped away any pretense of innocent misunderstanding. Someone had leaked them, and they landed in my inbox like gifts wrapped in silver. I didn't have to do anything flashy. Just a well-timed forward to the right people. Within hours, those screenshots hit a private neighborhood Facebook group, and from there, the wildfire started. Women in the group tore into him. Comments stacked by the hundreds. Classic gaslighter. 10 years of marriage thrown away. Imagine doing that to your own kid's mom. By the next day, Twitter had caught wind. A hashtag began trending. Coward Eric. At first, I thought it was a fluke. Then it spread. Meme accounts, gossip pages, even local influencers piling on. Someone clipped the line I'd delivered at the restaurant. You didn't just cheat on me, you auditioned for the role of coward, and you nailed it. It became a soundbite, laid over TikTok videos, lip-synced by strangers across the country. Eric hated nothing more than mockery. And now mockery was currency. He tried to fight back. He went live on Instagram, sitting in his car, voice low, trying to look contrite. We all make mistakes. I've asked for forgiveness. I've begged for privacy. He kept darting his eyes to the comments, clearly hoping for support. But the feed turned brutal fast. Thousands of comments flooded in. Mistake is forgetting milk, not sleeping with your wife's sister. Where's Jenna now, coward? Show us the receipts. Megan already did. He ended the live after 12 minutes, face pale, hands shaking as he reached to cut the stream. The humiliation wasn't just online. He walked into his office and found whispers waiting for him. Lunch invitations dried up. Co-workers stopped making eye contact. clients pulled out of meetings. Reputation wasn't an abstract thing anymore. It was income, opportunity, survival. And Jenna? She tried vanishing, deleted her socials, stopped answering calls. But it was too late. Someone dug up old photos of her and Eric together, posting them with captions like, "Family betrayal hits different." Her name was dragged through every thread, every comment section. Even old friends cut her off. At home, the silence was thick. Eric tried to talk to me once, standing in the doorway of the guest room where he'd been sleeping. His voice was thin. "You're enjoying this, aren't you? Watching me fall apart." I stared at him, unblinking. I don't have to enjoy it. I just have to let it happen. He shook his head, muttering about how cruel I was, how vindictive. But the truth was simple. I hadn't created his downfall. I'd just stopped hiding it. The PR war wasn't just about reputation. It was about power. For years, Eric had spun narratives that painted me as emotional, overreacting, too sensitive. Now the roles reversed. Every lie he told collapsed under the weight of receipts. Screenshots didn't need spin. Voice notes didn't need explanation. The world saw him clearly for the first time. And the more he fought, the worse it got. Every denial brought another leak, another screenshot. Friends of Jenna's began chiming in anonymously, stories of her bragging about Eric, proof she'd been flaunting the affair long before the memo slipped. Even Eric's brother posted a cryptic status online. "Family should be sacred. Some lines can't be uncrossed." It didn't mention names, but everyone knew. Within a month, Eric's carefully built image was rubble. His bosses called him in, citing damage to the company's reputation. He came home furious, blaming me. "You're destroying my career." "No," I said quietly. "You destroyed it the moment you thought secrecy made you invincible." He paced the room like a caged animal, hair disheveled, face red. "I'll sue for defamation. I cut him off with a calm smile. "Sue who, Eric? The internet? Your coworkers? Your brother? Or me? Because I have the receipts, and a judge will too." He deflated, the fight leaving him in waves. The man who once strutted through restaurants with his hand on the small of my back now avoided public places altogether. He wore baseball caps pulled low, sunglasses indoors, desperate to disappear. But humiliation doesn't vanish. It multiplies. And I wasn't finished, because this wasn't just about Eric being laughed at online. This was about dismantling every ounce of power he thought he had. Reputation gone, social circle crumbling, family divided, and soon, finances and custody too. The PR war had ended, and it wasn't even close. The public saw him for what he was, a liar, a coward, a man who gambled with his family and lost. And I was just getting ready for the next round. By the time Eric's public image was in ashes, I was already 10 steps ahead. Reputation crumbles quickly, but money and custody, that's where the real war lives. And I wasn't about to leave those pieces untouched. The first court date came faster than he expected. My attorney, sharp, unflinching, filed for divorce with evidence attached. The voice memo, the texts, the screenshots. She walked into that courtroom like she'd already won because we both knew we had. Eric showed up late, eyes bloodshot, tie crooked, hands shaking. Gone was the man who used to command boardrooms. He looked like a defendant, and that's exactly what he was. We laid everything out. The inheritance I'd used to buy the house, the savings I'd funded, the nights I'd worked double shifts while he chased half-baked business ideas. The judge listened, flipping through pages of proof, barely hiding his disdain as Eric tried to spin excuses. "It was emotional support, not an affair," he mumbled at one point. My attorney simply tapped the transcript of his own words. "Jenna, you were incredible last night." The courtroom chuckled. Eric's face burned crimson. Custody was next. Lily was my anchor, my reason for every move I made. I wanted it airtight, no loopholes, no chance for him to drag her through his chaos. We presented records, how I managed her schooling, medical appointments, daily life. How Eric missed conferences, forgot pickup times, and once left her waiting outside in the cold because he was caught up at work. The judge's patience wore thin as the list grew. By the end, it wasn't just custody. It was full custody awarded to me, with Eric allowed supervised visits. He exploded in the hallway afterward, hissing under his breath. "You turned my daughter against me." "No," I said, my voice steady. "You did that the moment you made her cover your lies. Don't you dare put that on me." The financial fallout came next, swift and brutal. Our accounts were already split, but divorce meant division of assets. The house? Mine, backed by proof of my inheritance. The retirement accounts? Split, with me walking away with the lion's share after my attorney traced every dollar I contributed. Eric, who once bragged about his business savvy, sat in stunned silence as the judge signed away his leverage. Even worse for him, his father, once his biggest safety net, cut him off. The man pulled me aside after one hearing, his face lined with shame. "Megan, I raised him better than this. He's no longer my concern. You and Lily, however, you'll always have my support." That conversation spread quickly. Within weeks, Eric's family gatherings no longer included him. His brother blocked his number entirely. Holidays came and went with Eric alone, while the rest of us shared meals, laughter, and healing without him. Jenna was absent too, her name unspoken, her existence like a stain no one wanted to acknowledge. Jenna's collapse was quieter, but no less devastating. With her reputation shredded and her family ties severed, she spiraled. Friends abandoned her, jobs stopped calling back, and she eventually packed up and left Denver. I heard through a cousin she was crashing on couches in another city, broke and bitter. Once, that knowledge might have given me a twisted satisfaction. Now it was just background noise. She'd destroyed herself. I didn't need to lift a finger. Eric, though, his unraveling was impossible to ignore. He lost his job when the company cited irreparable harm to public trust. His car was repossessed. His credit tanked. I saw him once outside the courthouse, haggard, wearing a suit that didn't fit anymore. He tried to sneer, tried to summon that old arrogance, but it crumbled the second our eyes met. "You're ruthless," he spat. "No," I corrected him calmly. "I'm thorough. You built this mess. I just stopped cleaning it up for you." The words hit harder than any slap. He staggered, muttering to himself, and walked away like a man without a destination. Family allies only reinforced his isolation. My parents, who had once tried to keep peace at any cost, told him flatly never to step foot in their home again. Even his mother, who'd begged me to heal months earlier, finally admitted, "He's not the man I thought he was. He's not welcome here until he takes responsibility." And we both know he never will. The final nail came when the court finalized the divorce. In black ink on white paper, it was all official. House, accounts, custody, assets. Everything solidly in my hands. Eric left that day with nothing but the clothes on his back and a stack of debts. I didn't cheer. I didn't gloat. I just exhaled. Years of sacrifice, of silence, of swallowing doubt, balanced in a single decree. Word spread fast. Denver's circles are smaller than people realize. Eric Kaiser wasn't just a man who cheated on his wife. He was a man who lost everything because of it. And I walked out of that courthouse not broken, not bitter, but free. I thought I'd seen the last of Eric the day the divorce papers were stamped. But men like him don't go quietly. They linger, circling the edges of the life they destroyed, desperate for scraps of control. It was late evening when he showed up. I just put Lily to bed, the house finally still, when the knock rattled the door. Slow, heavy, insistent. I opened it to find him standing there, thinner, unshaven, wearing the same suit jacket I'd last seen in court. The arrogance was gone, replaced with something I'd never seen in his eyes before, desperation. "Megan," he said, voice rough. "Please, I need to talk to you." I didn't move aside. "You shouldn't be here." "I know," he admitted, rubbing his temples like the weight of the world was crushing him. but I've lost everything. My job, my family, my reputation. Jenna's gone. My parents won't take my calls. I'm sleeping on a friend's couch. I don't even have enough money to buy dinner most nights. His voice cracked. I just need you to understand I never meant for it to go this far. I studied him. The man who once strutted through life convinced he was untouchable. Now, he looked like a hollow version of himself, begging for scraps of sympathy. You meant every second of it, Eric, I said quietly. Every lie, every sneer, every moment you mocked me with my sister. Don't stand here pretending it was an accident. He flinched, eyes darting. I was stupid, weak. But we had 10 years, Megan. Doesn't that count for something? It counts as the foundation you burned to the ground. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. I want my family back. I want Lily to know I'm not the monster people say I am. Please, can't you forgive me? Can't we start over? Something inside me shifted then. Once, I might have been tempted to soften, to rationalize. But that version of me was gone. I thought of Lily asleep upstairs, safe in the world I had rebuilt without him. I thought of the vow I'd made the night I walked out of that anniversary dinner, that I would never let him humiliate me again. Start over? I repeated, my tone sharp. You don't get to press reset after shattering everything. You don't get another chance to poison this house or this family. You chose betrayal. You chose cowardice. And now you're living in the ruins of your own choices. His hands shook. Megan, please. I'll change. I swear. I let the silence stretch, the weight of it pressing into him. Then I delivered the words that had lived in me for months, the truth he needed to hear, whether it broke him or not. You're the architect of your own destruction. The line hit like a stone dropped in water, rippling through the air until his shoulders caved. He stared at me, lips parted, eyes glassy. For once, he had no comeback, no defense. Just the crushing reality of who he'd become. I stepped back and closed the door slowly, the latch clicking into place like a final nail in his coffin. On the other side, I heard him breathe out a sound halfway between a sob and a curse. Then footsteps retreating into the night. I leaned against the door for a moment, exhaling, steady. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I felt nothing but clarity. The chapter was closed. He had begged, he had pleaded, and I had given him the only truth that mattered. And for the first time in years, I knew with absolute certainty, I was free. A year passes quickly when you stop living in survival mode. The days blur less, the nights feel lighter, and even the silence of the house shifts from heavy to peaceful. I used to dread waking up alone. Now I savor it. The quiet mornings when it's just me, Lily's laughter echoing from her room, and the freedom of knowing there are no hidden knives behind smiles. Life rebuilt itself in pieces. I went back to work full-time, climbing higher than I'd ever managed before. Turns out the sacrifices I once made for Eric's half-baked ventures weren't wasted. They made me sharper, tougher, more relentless. My boss called me a storm in heels. I took it as a compliment. Promotions followed, paychecks grew, and for the first time, I wasn't just surviving financially. I was thriving. The house, my house, felt alive again. Fresh paint, new furniture, no shadows lurking in corners. Lily flourished too. She grew brighter, steadier, no longer walking on eggshells around a distracted father. She threw herself into school projects, soccer practice, and even asked if she could try piano. I watched her confidence bloom, and I knew I'd made the right choice. Shielding her, showing her what strength looks like. One night, as I tucked her in, she whispered, "Mommy, you're my hero." That was the moment I realized everything I'd endured was worth it. As for Eric, his decline was quieter but constant. I'd hear fragments through the grapevine, how he lost another job, how he was spotted at a bar downtown begging old colleagues for help, how even Jenna had long since abandoned him. He'd become a cautionary tale, the man who lost everything because he thought he was untouchable. People didn't whisper his name with pity anymore. They shook their heads with disgust. I ran into him once at a grocery store. He looked smaller, thinner, almost unrecognizable in an old hoodie, pushing a basket with a few cans of soup. He froze when he saw me, eyes darting down like a child caught stealing. I didn't stop. I didn't need words. The look on his face told me he knew. Our worlds had split, and mine was thriving while his had withered. I no longer felt rage when I thought of him, just distance, like remembering a storm after the sun has returned. Painful, yes, but no longer consuming. Betrayal had cut me open, but it had also carved space for something stronger. Freedom. People ask me sometimes if I'd ever forgive him. My answer is simple. Forgiveness is wasted on those who weaponize it. I don't carry his sins anymore, but I don't excuse them either. What he built, he destroyed. What he destroyed, I rebuilt. The truth is, I didn't just survive him. I outgrew him. And now, when I look at my daughter, my home, my reflection in the mirror, I see a woman who refused to be defined by betrayal. I see a life that is mine alone, rebuilt not from ashes but from steel. Eric is a shadow of a man wandering in the wreckage he created. I am the woman who walked out of the fire. And freedom, I've learned, is the sharpest revenge of all. Thank you for watching my story. If it hit you, hype the button to keep it moving, and share your own thoughts or experiences down in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Don't forget to hit subscribe and smash the like button so you never miss the next one.